Karen and Michael Murray have had the last 3 months to string beans in jail, and their sentencing hearing will be coming up on Monday.
As to defendant Karen W. Murray in case number 47002A, in count 1 for the offense of first-degree murder in the commission of a felony, which is aggravated neglect of a vulnerable adult, how did you find the defendant Karen Murray guilty or not guilty? No, you can just say if you found her guilty or not guilty.
Guilty.
Of the indicted offense. All right. As to Mr. Michael Murray, in case number 47002B, did you find the defendant guilty or not guilty of first-degree murder during the commission of a felony, aggravated neglect of a vulnerable adult?
Guilty, Your Honor.
Welcome. We are a true crime and wine couple. Welcome. If you are a repeat offender, as we like to refer to our returning subscribers, we are so happy to have you back. Thank you. And if you're not a subscriber, we hope you will be one. So we did a video, if you want to watch, about the case of Sheila Murray. And it was a horrible case of neglect that bordered on abuse pretty much.
Yeah.
The woman suffered terribly. She was left in her own feces and urine with parts of her body to atrophy. And there was a lot of controversy over the case because what had happened was the daughter and son of Sheila Murray were convicted of neglect murder.
Right.
They do not appear to be capable of single-handedly caring for an adult.
No, definitely not.
They don't appear to be capable of caring for themselves.
Right.
However, there's a few variables that are confusing. One was that Michael, at the time of his arrest, was well over 250 pounds, correct?
Yeah.
And at the time of his conviction, was well under 150 pounds. I don't think he was 120, 130,
No.
do you?
No, very sleep.
There's that happening. Also, Karen Murray, according to her sister, was with it, was cognitively aware of things. So you really can't tell by they look so incapable.
Yes.
But also, for the trial, their capability was not brought up. It was not allowed to be brought up. Now, we're thinking it will be brought up at sentencing.
I hope it is. I really do. And I have several issues with this case, but go ahead. Just with them in particular, I hope that at least it's addressed. Or taken into consideration when we don't even know if there is a mental issue.
Right.
But if there is, it should be presented as sentencing.
And I think it's going to come to the mitigating circumstances versus the aggravating circumstances. Another thing that is controversial here is Sheila Murray's husband died prior to the conviction of the kids.
This is where I have the problem. This is where my problem stems from.
And it appears as if he was in charge of these kids. And they're not kids because they're in their 30s and
they're adults,
they're
exactly.
in late 30s, early 40s. Another aspect of this case, and this woman took a lot of heat, was their sister Sonia, who lived a few hours away and appeared to be more than capable of taking care of herself and others.
Right.
Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. More responsible and capable.
But she was not involved in caring for her mother. And according to her, she had wanted her mother with her. Her father put her foot down. What he said went. It also should be taken into account that he was ex-military and he was also ex-law enforcement. Not that I want to stereotype, but they exist for a reason, and typically those people are used to
They're aware of the highway.
control and power.
Right.
Not everyone is like that,
No,
but they're used to, in the military, you have to answer to a higher rank.
and you don't question.
The same thing in the police.
Right. Because once you start questioning your superiors, that's when chaos and all hell breaks loose.
Now, I don't feel that it was Sonia's fault. I think she lived far away, she had her own family, and I think she just washed her hands of her sister, brother, and father.
Probably because of the father. Like, she probably just did not want to go and deal in that environment. And then, over time, you just sort of...
And she did say on the stand that she wanted to take her mother into her home and care for her.
But my issue is she was in a nursing home. She was in a nursing home. She was being taken care
The
of.
money ran out.
And then...
The money ran out.
Is that what it was, the money?
It was an issue of money, yes. I think it was money and pride. I think Sheila's husband felt that Tony was the name he went by. I think he felt that he was embarrassed that he couldn't afford it. And he also had the pride to say, I can care for her. She doesn't need to be in a facility. Obviously, she needed to be in a facility.
Yes.
And the very, very sad part of this case is that by all accounts from the medical personnel and the EMTs, Sheila was cognizant and could feel pain.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they took her to the hospital, they said a tear ran down her eye.
Well, she had that broken leg too, right? It was a compound fracture,
a broken
right?
foot,
Like
yeah.
there was bone sticking out.
And the bone was sticking out and
Yeah.
it dried. It's just a terrible case. If you can't do medical things or elimination things, you don't want to watch this case. But we are putting up a follow-up since the sentencing is going to be on Monday for those that did watch the video.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting at the sentencing. Like we said, I think personally that if there is any mental issues going on, I think it needs to be taken into consideration. And my problem is I really think it all stems from the father. And these adults, we keep calling them kids, but they're adults.
They're adults.
Obviously, they couldn't take care of themselves because they were in their 30s living at home. I mean, there was probably a reason for that.
Sonia had said they held down jobs, but they were unemployed at the time.
Right.
Another thing, too, that could be happening is the father could have kept them, not subservient to him, but could have made it so that he didn't want them functioning out in society. So maybe he wanted them there and dependent on him.
Right.
That's another aspect. But since he died, we don't know any of that. And Sonia wasn't very forthcoming. But she did say it was her dad's way or the highway. And she said what he said went.
How long after the husband died did Sheila pass away? Like how?
No, he passed away after Sheila.
Oh, so
he was alive when Sheila was taken to the
That's
hospital and passed. Yes, he was alive at the time, but he died before the sentencing.
No, it's his fault. I honestly, I mean, yes, they're adults, so they're going to have some culpability. But if they get sentenced to the full extent, that I just don't think, unless something comes out where it says these people are just faking it, that they're making themselves look like this, but they are perfectly capable and perfectly fine. That's one thing. But even still, let's say they were perfectly fine, totally, with it, capable, responsible, the whole thing. Even still, if the father was there and he was controlling them, they had no control over her care. He was in charge.
Right.
He was calling the shots. He was the one that was canceling the in-home services, not them. He was canceling them. He was the one that was not setting them up because they did have in-home there a couple times, and then there was some missed appointments.
Yes, that was a problem too. Another thing that people had speculated about was Michael might have dropped Sheila and broke her foot, and the dad said, "You're done taking care of her."
Right.
Because you hurt her. And he might have been too proud to take her to the hospital.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just so sad all around. That woman suffered.
Yeah.
She suffered so terribly. And I think that's the problem with sentencing the son and daughter. Somebody has to be brought to justice for this crime.
Right. But
you can't take the father to justice. He's gone.
Dead. Yeah. I don't know. This is a tough one. This is a lot like the Nikolai Mute case, where
It's just sad all around.
You could see it from both sides,
angles.
and you knew somebody was going to pay, and he did.
Yes, definitely. Very much like the Nikolai Murray trial. This happened over a very much longer time.
Right, yeah, that was
that
was a real quick thing, and this was an extended thing. But there's just so many things to take into consideration. I'd hate to be that judge.
Now we're thinking with the mitigating factors that are usually discussed at sentencing, their capability will come into play, as it did for Nicholas Cruz.
Right.
With the Parkland shooting.
Yeah.
So we're hoping those sort of things will come into play, and they'll actually get to, the judge will see all the extenuating circumstances and things like that.
Right.
But it'll be interesting, because if that stuff doesn't come out, I don't think we're ever going to get the full picture.
No. We'll have to wait. We'll have to see what happens on Monday.
And I have to say, of the brother and sister, Michael looks the more impaired, doesn't he? Yes. And according to Sonia, she had perfectly average conversations with Karen. So, but it does appear that the brother is at least on the spectrum, unless it's an act. Who knows? You
don't know. But again, the father was in charge.
Yes.
And that has to be a factor. Really, I mean, I think it does. I think it needs to be taken into consideration. And these kids may not have had any control, any say, nothing. It's like, do this, do this, do this. Don't do this. No, don't call the in-home nurse. And what are they supposed to do?
And Sonia took the heat. Definitely in the comments section, because I watched the whole trial on Court TV.
I mean, put yourself in her position.
No, I know, absolutely. I agree.
She escaped from the situation.
Yeah, I agree.
She's not going to insert herself back in. She was probably scared to death of the man.
And she did say that the house had been unkempt, and she didn't even, when she went to visit, she stayed at a hotel. Yeah. The house was such a mess. While Sheila, before she had the strokes, and the 2 strokes were what incapacitated Sheila. Yeah. She was fine until the strokes. So this should be interesting. Do you want to make a prediction? I have a prediction.
I'm not going to make a prediction. I'm going to say what I think should happen.
Okay.
I think that they should get whatever the lightest sentence is that they can possibly get. I think that's what they should get. I do not think that they should get the full sentence. I just don't think they're responsible. They were in the home and they were adult. I mean, think about it this way. I'm looking at them as like 7-year-olds. If they were 7-year-olds, they had about the same amount of control as a 7-year-old would in that house.
But we also don't know their IQ, their mental capacity to stand up to him. We don't know any of that.
Put all that aside.
You think it was just all him?
I think it was all him. And I know those type of people. And so do you. You know them, and
they have to have control of everything.
And you don't have any say. You can't cross the line where you're going to pay for it.
It's almost like his own little cult.
Right. Exactly. Running. Yeah.
I'm going to make a prediction. My prediction is I think Karen's going to get life. I don't know about Michael.
Why do you think they're going to get such
Because there's something about her to me that makes her seem like she has her mental capacities about her. I'm trying to be I'm trying to use PC language here. Something about him seems he's on the spectrum, and it's a little bit more than moderately impaired, in my opinion, just from looking. So that's my take on it.
It'll be interesting to see.
And it will be very controversial. There was a lot of hate for that sister on Court TV. It was nasty.
Which I don't think is fair.
No,
I really don't. I really don't think it's fair, because she escaped the situation. She had no control of the situation, as they didn't. It's not like she could walk into the house and say, "Dad, no, you're not doing this right. We're going to do it this way." That would never happen.
Well, and if somebody could have done that, it would have been Sonia. And as you can see, she got the kibbutz.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's just sad. A lot of these cases just are.
Most of them are.
Most of them are just sad all around. So the sentencing hearing will be on Monday. It's in the state of Tennessee. I like the judge. She seems very fair, very matter of fact, and hopefully we'll get to see what the capacity of these two
I really
of
hope
the
that,
accused
I hope
is.
that that is allowed to be discussed.
It will also be interesting to see if Sonia will be there to testify
On their behalf.
or to make a victim impact statement. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting. All right.
And also, it'll be interesting to see if any of the EMTs or the medical personnel make victim impact statements, because those people were shaken up. They had a lot of trauma over
Yeah,
this.
and I'm sorry. I did that for years. It's your job. And you do see some nasty, disgusting things, but it's your job.
But what they were
Don't go
called
whining about it
to,
afterwards.
but that's another problem though. They were called for a welfare check, and they came upon a trauma situation.
I understand that, but like I said, I did it for years and years and years, and
Yeah.
it is what it is. And honestly, you do not ever know what is waiting for you on the other side of the door. You could walk into, I mean,
True.
there's just some things that I wouldn't even discuss because they're just so bad. But
Luckily,
that's what you see.
I've only rescued animals. I have not rescued people, and that's horrible in and of itself. But I can do stuff with animals. I can't with people. I just can't do like wounds and all that kind of stuff.
And it's weird. Like you would think I would,
Right.
but I had no issue with it. I don't
Yeah,
know
you have
why.
more of an issue with poop and pee than blood and guts.
Blood and guts, yeah.
Bone.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be an interesting case. It'll be interesting to watch. It'll be interesting to see if my prediction came true.
Yes.
So if you watched our video or you've been following the case, tune in, leave us a comment. I'd like to know what everybody thinks about this.
Yeah, let us know what you think is going to happen. It should be interesting.
And I'll be watching the hearing, and I'll be looking at the comments on Court TV because they were quite interesting during the trial.
Yeah, I'm sure they were.
Interesting to watch.
Okay. So.
Once again, we are drinking Franklin Hill White Jade.
White Jade from Franklin Hill.
Sounds like an Asian movie.
It does, yes.
And
it's very good.
A delicious blend, and it's even a little bit of oak Chardonnay in there, isn't there?
Bit, yeah.
But it's very
really
good. It's a nice dry, it's smooth, it's very good.
Yeah.
And we talk about Franklin Hill in our other video, in our Chris Watts video.
So if
you'd like to see more about Franklin Hill, check that out.
And we are going to do a whole thing around Franklin Hill eventually.
Yes, we will, eventually. Yeah. So we are True Crime and Wine Couple. And we'll catch you on the flip side of Sister Wives. Have a great weekend. And at the Sheila Murray sentencing.
Yes.